Good morning. Good morning. This is the Blaine's World webcast that can be found each week on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. You can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You get more information about and listen to previous shows at our website, which is behind me, blainesworld.net. I'm your host, Blaine Greenfield, and I'm here in my Zoom studio in lovely downtown Fairview, North Carolina. Each week we focus on organizations and people in both Western North Carolina and North Carolina and throughout the country, actually. And it's my pleasure to introduce three guests today. And they are Cindy Pearce, Dara, Kiely, and Nina Tovish with the Asheville Toastmasters Club. And what you can do, folks, is you can wave to all your fans and friends who are watching this. So if you're watching this, and I'm all excited, this is the very first time they've ever been on a podcast or website. So I'm honored to have you on the show. Um, Essentially, I don't know too much about you folks other than you're involved in Toastmasters. So in no particular order, Cindy, if I can just ask you in terms of you live where in this area? You live in the Asheville area, Cindy?
Yeah. Yeah. I live in
Okay.
Mills River, just outside Asheville.
Okay. And so you live there, and your current I see your current president of Asheville Toastmasters. You grew up where?
I grew up in California, actually.
And so did you know as a young woman growing up in California that you always wanted to be president of a national organization here? Was that your
No,
goal?
I can't say that I've always dreamt of that, but I'm happy I'm here now.
Okay, well, I'm happy to hear as well. So, aside from Toastmasters, do you do other things as well?
Other organizations and clubs? No,
Well,
besides work.
work, yeah. So saying, so you work outside, you do some other work aside from Toastmasters. Can you share where you work?
Yeah, I'm the general manager for Noventure, so we operate a handful of campgrounds and recreation sites in Pisgah Forest.
Okay, gotcha. And you've been doing that for how long?
About 3.5 years.
Okay, and you've been with Toastmasters, you told me for how many years?
2.5.
And the question I'll ask, and I'll ask the others as well. So, how did you find Toastmasters, or how did they find you?
Well, I started at my current job, 3.5 years ago, and then I was promoted into my current position about 2.5, 3 years ago. So when I was promoted into this position, I was looking for opportunities to improve my communication and public speaking skills. And so then I came across Toastmasters. It was recommended to me by a few people. So once I moved into this position, I realized if I wanted to continue to grow, then I should join Toastmasters. And so I joined, and that was 2.5 years ago. And I've definitely seen progress since. So I'm very happy I joined.
Had you ever heard of Toastmasters before then?
Yeah, I studied abroad in the Netherlands back in 2009, 2010. And the first club I went to for Toastmasters was back in Amsterdam. So I walked in, and then they asked me to do the table topics portion, which is an impromptu kind of talk, and I ran, and it took me a very long time to join again.
Okay, well, anyway, glad you joined. And not only did you join, so then one of the things that happen is you get involved very quickly, it looks like. And so in a couple of years, you took over the whole organization. You pushed everybody else aside, and you're now the chief honcho with Asheville Toastmasters.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah,
how long is that office? How long do you have that for?
1 year.
Okay, so then I'll ask also that uh, Dara is the vice president. Is that correct of Asheville Toastmasters?
I'm the Vice President of Public Relations. We also have a Vice President of Membership and a Vice President of Education.
Okay, so a bunch of vice presidents, but I'm
Yes.
glad you're here today. Same questions. You grew up where?
I grew up in New Jersey, right near New York City,
Okay,
in
where
Fort
where
Lee.
where, where in New Jersey?
Fort Lee.
Fort Lee. Okay, I was from central New Jersey, and so you grew up in New Jersey. Same thing too. Did you always, as a young woman, know you wanted to be involved in Toastmasters?
I recall going to a Toastmaster meeting a long time ago, and I went to one meeting and then I never went back.
Okay,
I
great.
needed to speak a lot for work, but I just didn't find myself finding the time. And sometimes you just fall in with a group that fits and works for you. And when I joined again, over 6 years ago, it was a good fit.
And
It's
so,
actually a really fun club, and when you go, there's just a great energy there.
well, it's interesting you say that. It's really fun, but some people, I guess, before they join Toastmasters, we find it anything but fun. You know, it's like things. Can you imagine, guys, to getting up and have to speak, in front of other people, and but it's really cool. That's a fun thing for you now.
Yes.
Okay. And so when you're not doing Toastmasters, do you workouts at home as well?
Yes, I'm a local residential realtor with Looking Glass Realty in Asheville.
Okay. And I would imagine if there are any realtors listening or seeing this program, if they ever want to join an organization that would really be good for them, would be Toastmasters. I got to believe it would really be helpful to realtors, getting
Absolutely.
practice speaking
Yes.
in front of groups. So you do real estate, and the you've been vice president for how long?
Our Toastmaster year just started July 1st. I've had a number of roles in Toastmasters. If you're open to being on the board, you quickly get assimilated into an officer role. So I've been a few other things, secretary, past president, and I've been VP PR before.
Okay. I'm impressed too with the organization that I guess you can always create another vice president spot. So that's one way to get everybody involved. Have lots of offices and board opportunities. But I guess that's the way to join any organization. If you want to get involved, you should try to join and get a lot more out of it. And so the same question, if I can ask Nina, so you've been involved with Asheville Toastmasters for how many years?
Four, give or take.
Okay. And when not in Asheville Toastmasters, what do you do?
I'm the leader of a small not-for-profit organization called Sustain AVL, and our purpose is to help diversify our local and regional economy away from overdependence on tourism towards the sustainability sector.
Very cool. And if you can, remind me after the show is over, I'd like to do a show on that organization as well. I like featuring lots of nonprofits. So that's a great concept. In getting involved in Asheville Toastmasters, have you ever been involved with Toastmasters before?
No, I hadn't. I looked into it because 4+ years ago, 4.5 now, I guess, I was trying to decide whether I wanted to run for city council, and I thought it would be a good idea to strengthen my public speaking skills in case I made the decision to do that. And as it turned out, I did run for city council unsuccessfully, for better
Oh,
or for worse.
well, exactly. But that was then, this is now. So, it's still about going to be a bunch more elections coming up. So, you have a chance to make a comeback here or run for
No,
this.
no likelihood of me running for office again.
Once was enough?
Once was enough. It was a
Okay.
wonderful experience, and I have no regrets. I learned a tremendous amount and made contacts all through our community, and yeah, it was an amazing experience, and I'm glad I did it, but I have no desire to do it again.
Hello again. Sorry for the interruption. We're back with folks from Asheville Toastmasters. And we were speaking with Nina specifically about getting a chance to improve her skills. And so, even though you didn't you didn't win for council that year, Asheville's the loss. Did you feel it benefited from the experience of joining Toastmasters? We don't have any volume here. We're having all sorts of technical difficulties.
Somehow I got unmuted. I
There you
got
go.
muted.
Okay, great.
Um, yes, absolutely. It's a wonderful opportunity to practice speaking in front of an audience that is not only encouraging and patient, but actually offers constructive feedback.
And
So I wouldn't say that I was afraid of public speaking, but I was not skilled or accustomed to it. And I think a lot of effectiveness in public speaking and fluency comes from practice and repetition and being able to think on your feet when you have to. If someone throws you a question you didn't expect, to be able to retain your composure and come up with a well-structured answer. And these are all skills that you can acquire by regular attendance at a Toastmasters club.
so let's talk a little bit about then what happens at a Toastmasters Club, because a lot of folks, I won't say it's a secret, a lot of people don't know about it, but it probably is. It's just that people, I guess, fall into it, but I guess they're kind of pleasantly surprised when they fall into it. I guess I asked Dara about that because I guess you have probably the longest amount of experience or all the different offices you've had with Asheville Toastmasters. What's the organization all about?
The organization is focused on public speaking, but I think what you find when you join Toastmasters, and I can't speak for every club in the country, but I can speak for Asheville Toastmaster Club 436, that everyone in the club is working on themselves. And what I mean by that is you meet people from all different backgrounds and different careers, lived in different places, and but you find that we all have one thing in common, and that is that we are all looking to improve ourselves, not just with public speaking. I think Toastmasters has a lot of positive people in it, and these people are just looking to not only just meet other interesting people, but work on their skills. And you don't see that every day. You don't always meet a group of people that you will find in the club that we're in, where everybody is there and working on their life. I just think that's very unique about it.
And you're raising a really good point, I think, that people, I think, hear the word public speaking and, think they're going to have to get up and speak in front of 250 people, at a meeting. But I think your experience, especially as a realtor, is particularly valuable because even though you're not making formal speeches all the time, you're speaking all the time, So I think that's like misleading in some sense to people that if they're worried about getting up in front of an audience, this helps even if you're just going to get up in front of a small meeting for your company or even selling real estate one-on-one. Do the skills come in handy with that as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
People, like you said, are always speaking at work. And one of the focuses, we have different sections of the meeting, which Cindy and Nina will explain. But the impromptu portion of our meeting is called table topics. And that's when you're given a question and you don't know what that question is and you have to answer it. But often that's a great opportunity to speak for a minute or two and answer a question really succinctly. Being in Toastmasters helps you have the ability just to speak with people in whatever forum it is, whether you're meeting somebody in an elevator and have to give an elevator pitch on your business, or you're at a party and you need to make small talk, or you're tasked with something at work, such as a meeting. We have all that covered because in our meetings, there is prepared speeches and there's impromptu speeches that you are not prepared for, so you learn to speak on your feet.
And I thank you for setting that up because I'm going to ask, I'll put Cindy on the spot there. Same thing too, a table topic. Give me an example, Cindy, of what that is. Somebody you just get asked, prepare for it, and all of a sudden you get asked a question, you have to speak on it. Is that what happens?
Essentially, yeah. So there's a table topics master. So before each meeting, each meeting has sort of a structure. So you can sign up for roles ahead of time. And one of those roles is table topics master. So when the time comes in the meeting for them to get up, they'll go in front of the room and they have a list of prepared questions. And they essentially select somebody from the audience, one of the members. They ask a question and then they choose someone randomly that's a member sitting in the group. So that person they choose has from the time of, the question being asked until they walk to the front of the room to come up with what their response will be. So really 10 seconds they have to think of this answer. And then before they get in front of the room and then present it. So as Dara said, the goal is to have a beginning, middle, and an end and to be succinct as possible.
Give an example of such a question.
I think the last question I had when I was called on to table topics was tell me about the most random item you've ever found in your pocket.
Okay. And so what if I mean, I'm even trying to think out loud with you. What if you can't think of something, or what do you do at that point in time?
Well, that was one of
You
the
make up
questions
something?
that's one of the questions I couldn't think of anything for. So one of the most difficult things to do is when you get up in front of the audience and you just pause. Nina and Dara have both given me that feedback before. When you get up there and you can't think of what to say, it's okay to pause and take a minute to collect your thoughts. And that's something you find a lot of new members and still myself continue to work on is can you stand in front of a group of people and collect your thoughts so you can give a succinct answer? And so you take a moment and think about it. And a lot of times you really recall things that are important to you in your life and you tie it back into that.
Well, Nina probably can talk about this based on her infamous political career here, but that's what as you're saying it, I hear so many politicians do that. That's one of a political technique. You get asked a question you don't want, and you turn around and talk about something completely different. So I guess
Mhm.
that's what at least some politicians do, when they're prepared to speak about something. And then I'll ask you, then since you've gone through that at least one cycle, have you ever had to do that? You asked a question and you weren't prepared to, when you were campaigning, you weren't prepared to answer it?
Generally, for the most part, no, because the only time I would say that that happened to me was when people were asking me either something about history of Asheville government that
Right.
I didn't know because I've only been here for 12 years, or about a specialized topic where I don't have the kind of expertise to answer it. And I would just say that. That's not that's not something that I know about. Should I be elected, I would certainly be glad to talk with the appropriate staff to understand the topic better and make a decision based on the information provided in that context. But no, I think with Toastmasters table topics, it is a it is desirable that one answer the question posed,
Right.
but it is also permissible to take a tangent with the goal of thereby delivering a speech that's entertaining, informative, revealing. Mostly the emphasis is on actually speaking. The minimum time suggested is 1 minute. The maximum is 2 minutes with a 30-second grace period after that. And one is encouraged to use as much time as one is allotted. And so it's if a person doesn't answer the question specifically assigned to them, it's okay, as long as what they do is deliver a speech.
Now, talk about then, since you talk about the speeches. So I got the table topics. That's part of every meeting. And then there's another part that people actually deliver presentations, speeches.
Yes.
And talk about that.
Our
How,
meetings,
yeah.
just to give you the overview, our meetings start with introductions. Sometimes there's a 1 minute teaching moment where someone from our membership will give a brief talk about something pertinent to the way we do things at Toastmasters so that those present can learn about it. And then we go into what we call the educational portion of the program. And that starts with from 1 to 3 prepared speeches of varying lengths. The typical one is 5 to 7 minutes. And those are speeches generally that people have put a fair amount of work into preparing. So they're coming and they're delivering a polished speech on a topic of their choosing. And then after those speeches, we have members assigned roles to evaluate each speaker and give constructive feedback that they can learn how to make their speech even better. And in fact, often people will give a speech at one meeting and then come back several weeks later and do it again, incorporating the advice that they've been offered on their prepared speech. So we'll usually have 2 or 3 prepared speeches, 2 or 3 evaluations of those prepared speeches. Then we do table topics, and we have evaluations of the table topics as well. So one person is assigned to evaluate the table topics portion of the meeting.
Yeah. So
And there are a bunch of other roles as well, which others can describe as appropriate.
so the speeches, then you mentioned there are X number of speeches each presentation. So these people are know in advance they're going to be giving a speech. They can prepare for it accordingly.
No, the prepared
Yeah.
speakers sign up to speak.
Right. And
They
so
know they're going to speak and they get to decide what they want to speak about.
does everybody in the ha chapter have to deliver a prepared speech?
No one is
Ideally.
required.
Ideally. I mean, so
You're
is that what,
there to do it if you want to.
Mhm.
Not a whole lot of point in coming to Toastmasters if you don't hope to speak at some point.
Oh, so that's interesting. So, Dara, back to you. So how many people in the chapter right now, approximately?
I believe there's around 32, but 32 to 35 members right now.
And so I guess that's where the three speeches a session. So in a year, theoretically, if everybody wants to, they get a chance to at least give one presentation.
Some people give 1 or 2 speeches a year. Other people give 5 or 8 speeches a
Oh,
year.
really?
It just really depends. People can sign up as they're available and they have things that they want to talk about. Some people talk about pick a figure in history and talk about their biography. Many people talk about things that are work related. Many people also talk about personal topics, self-improvement topics. So it really runs the gamut.
So these are almost, I'm listening to you. In some respects, though, these are, I guess, in some respects, many TED Talks or some each week you get these short presentations that are sort of like TED Talks at a time.
I think that's a fair way to describe it.
Yeah.
I don't think everyone's speech is per se inspirational, but many of them are. And most of them are also educational as well.
Are
So
you?
I think mini TED Talk is not a bad description of what we do.
Well, I'll give another one. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I'll send you information on it. I'll mess up the pronunciation, but are you familiar also with a group called Pekachuka, something like that? Or are
Yeah.
you familiar with it? So this is sort of what they do. So I went to theirs are all just like 5 to 7 minutes, and the only thing you have to do lots of slides. Have you ever been to one of those, Nina? Yeah, they're kind of interesting. Or have you ever spoken at one?
Yes,
Oh, have you really? Okay. What was the
long
top?
ago.
What was the topic? Do you remember?
My recollection is that I spoke using a slideshow of my own photography. At that time, I wasn't a professional photographer anymore, but I was still making a lot of photographs. And I gave a talk about photography as a way of paying attention to and connecting with the world and other people.
So at the Asheville Toastmasters, do folks do presentations where they show slides as well, or can they do that?
Yes.
Because I don't know, Dara, have you ever done the Pekachuka? Have you ever done that speech?
I have not. I
Or
have not. And I
speak?
haven't used slides. During the pandemic, though, we met. I have to tell you that this club is 78 years old. It's one of the oldest clubs in the Carolinas, if not the oldest in the Carolinas. And right through the pandemic, we didn't just stop meeting, we met online.
Very cool.
We met on Zoom for months and months. We even had a holiday party online once. And so we've really kept going. We met outside for a while. We did anything we could to continue meeting,
Okay,
which is pretty great
very cool.
because that was a very special time in that we really needed connection. Most of us were sitting at home, and the only time we got to see other people was at our Toastmaster meeting.
Well, what
It,
really sounds too cool about your organization is that this is also a great way to connect with lots of people outside of work. Have nothing to do for the most part with work. And Cindy,
yeah.
you talk about that as well. So we heard anywhere from 30 to 35 people come to meetings. Who are the members? Like who joins Asheville Toastmasters?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and first I want to mention we have 30 to 35 members, but on average in each meeting, I would say about 10 to 15 on average, if you both agree. So, each meeting is a little bit different with who you might see there. But really the meeting is for anybody to join. Like we mentioned earlier, it's for really self-improvement, community, if you just want to go there and meet other people. One thing I really have come to appreciate about Toastmasters are the people that I got to meet. This group of people, you might not have had the opportunity to have met each other out in the real world, but it's a beautiful group of people from all sorts of different backgrounds. And these Toastmasters is an opportunity to get up and kind of speak about your life. It's little snippets of your life. So whenever someone gives a speech or whenever they do table topics, you just get a little insight view into who they are. And so over the years, as you're a member, you really come to know everyone else by just being there and listening to them speak. So it's a really unique, beautiful community to be a part of.
Where and when do you meet?
We meet every Thursday at the AB Tech campus in the Ivy building from 6:15 to 7:45.
Okay. So it's not kind of the whole night. So it sounds like a very tight hour and a half, but they come in and get out within the hour and a half. Um, Talk about Toastmasters then in terms of what do you do with the skills? I mean, I can see from the real estate standpoint, I'll ask both the two of you and I'll ask Dara as well. So how have you used some of the skills, Nina, that you've gotten from the Toastmaster experience?
Well, I spend a lot of time talking to people, a lot of having constructive conversations with folks is about listening. And one of the underrated and under mentioned values of Toastmasters is that you spend a lot of time listening to other people talking and learning how to take in what they're saying, evaluate the language that they're using, the structure of the speech they're giving. And it's a terrific opportunity, not just to learn to speak yourself, but also to listen to others and understand what they're saying, and also to consider how you might do it differently, where they're succeeding, where they're not succeeding, how they could improve. So one of the great values for me has been helping me listen better. And when you're in a leadership role and part of your job is to go out and both tell people about your organization, but also to find ways in which you can collaborate with other people, being able to listen actively and strategically to what they're saying so that you can then respond to them in an appropriate and persuasive fashion. That's something that you can learn as part of your Toastmasters journey.
And talking about segues into the last question I want to ask you folks about kind of what you've learned from the Toastmasters journey. I like how you said that. And so I'm going to take what I learned from you, three of you, the idea of a topic thing. So I'll put Cindy on first, or I'll throw this out to you. What's one thing you've learned or gotten from your Toastmasters experience? Can you think of one specific thing?
Yeah. One thing that it surprised me really what I took away from this, you walk in expecting to learn just about public speaking and
Right.
communication. And while those skills did improve, really, I was surprised because, it's up to me to come up with my speech topic. What do I want to talk about every single time I get up there? And so it really encouraged me to sort of dig deep and ask myself, what is important to me? What do I stand for? And what do I have to share with the audience? So for me, it was about self-reflection and getting to know myself better.
Now, asking the same question that you've been in Toastmasters a bunch of years now. Can you think of one thing, or almost like the elevator presentation Dara mentioned? Can you think of if somebody asked you in an elevator, what's one thing you learned from Toastmasters? What would you tell them?
The value of silence.
Mm.
And an important thing to learn in Toastmasters is that most audiences for public speaking want the speaker to succeed.
Interesting.
People are afraid to speak publicly because they feel like they're going to be judged. And if they make a little slip up or they make a mistake, people are going to think they're an idiot. And it's a very tense and high stakes experience speaking publicly for most people. With Toastmasters, it becomes almost routine. You get used to it, but you also learn that it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to pause and have a moment of silence to collect your thoughts. It's an okay thing to pause and say, when I said X, I think I misspoke there. Let me clarify that. An audience wants you to succeed. They want to learn from you. They want to hear what you have to say. And most audiences are forgiving. And the best way to take advantage of that and make it work for you is to be unafraid of having a pause and a moment of silence. And pauses can also be dramatic and effective, just as a part of your presentation where you add a little suspense or you ask a question and you let it hang in the air. But I think most people feel that they have to stand up and just be a motor mouth all the time, or people will think they have nothing to say. And nothing could be further from the truth than that.
And lastly, they're the same thing too, and you can relate it to your professional experiences as well. But if someone would ask you the one thing you got so far out of being in Toastmasters all these years, what would you say?
I would say I can't give you one answer to that. I think there's a number of things. I think at the basic level, it's learning that the you knows and so's and ums that punctuated my speech are less. And I certainly notice it with people on television, newscasters, and what have you. So I see, click. We actually have somebody called an counter that clicks a device to let you know. And some people, they might be insulted by that the first meeting that they're being called out, but they're not. It's helping people improve their speech. So that's something elementary. Also, vocal variety. If you're just speaking in monotone voice, that's not going to help you get your point across. On a larger level, I think being part of Toastmasters has been cathartic in many cases to speak about things in your life where you're vulnerable in front of a bunch of people. A beautiful thing about this group is they're supportive. As Nina and Cindy have said, this is a group of people who they have your back. You don't have to worry about making a mistake here because first of all, no one cares on the larger level that you're not going to be called out. But there's also an understanding of if we're not making mistakes, we're not learning. So when you get constructive criticism in this group, it is taken in that fashion, and we are all there to help each other and support each other, whether it's being a part of something personal in somebody's life that they might not have shared but really needed to get out in the open, or it's practicing a speech for work. So there are many good things about being a Toastmaster that I've
Are
learned.
the speeches ever taped?
Once in a blue moon, we should really be doing that more.
Okay.
But
And
often people don't want to see themselves on camera later.
Cindy, back to you. If folks want to find out more about Asheville Toastmasters, what's the best bet?
Yeah, they can go to our website, Asheville Toastmasters. We're also found on Facebook and Instagram as well.
Okay, and so even if they're not a member, they can come to a meeting and just check it out if they want?
Yes.
Absolutely. They can just drop in and visit until they feel ready to join.
Okay, very cool. Good way to check out an organization. Anyway, thank the three of you for being my guests on this edition of the Blaine's World webcast. I have to say, for a first time, never did this before. I can see the Toastmasters experience, so you're all great. I'd also like to thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti. And one of these days, maybe I'll bump into each of the three of you in the streets of Asheville. Thanks, guys. This was
And
great.
can I just add
Sure.
one
Thank
thing?
you.
Two, if you want.
So Toastmasters, our group started in 1947, but Toastmasters International didn't start allowing women to join until
Oh,
1973.
that is
So we
right.
really felt that it was imperative that you see three women from our group here tonight.
And not only that, they were even allowed to become officers. Is that correct? Can you imagine? Yeah, exactly.
Imagine.
Thank you for making that point. You're spot on. I also like to thank my producer, Cappy Tassetti, and keep up the good work. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for
Thank
the
you.
opportunity.